Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video, and today I am doing part 2 of an updated tarot collection video of 2025. At the time of me filming this, I would have already have made the mini, it's like, what is it, the mini pocket size odd shape tarot oracle video. I already have a part 1 of this tarot collection already out by the time of this one. But we are now going into row 2 of my system of how I organize my decks, what decks are in there. I will say none of these decks are, you probably would have noticed from the last video too, it's not in alphabetical order. It's literally just how I could get myself to organize my decks in the little system I have, the bin thing that I use. This is row number 2. And what's funny about these decks that I'm going to show, looking at them right now on the side, is a lot of them are very either spring-like or kind of summer energy, kind of weird, except for, I guess, the first deck I'm going to show. The rest kind of are that vibe. It's just really funny that they ended up fitting on the same row. But anyways, that's not what's important. We're going to get into it with this next part. So the first deck I'm going to show is actually a deck I'm not sure if I mentioned on my channel that I own, but it's like really new. So I haven't even used it at all yet. Okay. And that deck happens to be Tarot of the Cat People. This is by Karen Q Kendall. I don't know how to say that quite correctly. This is a US Games deck. This is mass market. This deck has been around a while, as you can see here. But in this printing, I guess at once upon a time, it used to have a bigger book it came with. Now it doesn't. It's just like a little white book, as you can see here. But honestly, that's fine. It's not like I necessarily need that at my point in my tarot journey. I've been reading tarot now for 10 years, guys. Holy shit. That seems long. It's a great size, I have to say. Okay. I have smaller hands and it just feels actually very comfortable in the hand. US Games, it's slightly thinner of cardstock, but it still has like a good resistance. I don't know. I really like their cardstocks are pretty decent. But these are the fun backs. Oh, this deck is not in order. I think I shuffled it. I don't know. I felt like shuffling it because it seemed like it was very easy to shuffle. Anyways, let's get into it. This is a deck, yeah, that a lot of people are familiar with. It's very sci-fi. It's supposed to be like a sci-fi world kind of thing where cats rule the whole world. So as you can see, every card has some kind of interesting wild cat somewhere in the card. It is definitely a product of its time. Seems very 80s-like, 80s sci-fi, but I kind of dig it. I don't know how, I will say, I don't know how it's going to read for me though. I think I have like a schedule this year of when I'm going to be using decks. And because I haven't used it really yet, I think I do plan to use it in March is what I put. I don't remember. So that'll be really funny to see and interesting. But it is a fun one. It's really fun. And you guys know me. I like very fantastical sci-fi kind of books and tarot decks. So it made sense that this was in my collection finally. I resisted buying this one for the longest time because I don't normally like if cats look too realistic. But I think because these cats are in a very sci-fi setting, I don't mind them as much. And they're not like the full deck. There's a lot of people in this deck. So I wouldn't consider this a fully cat deck, even though this is Tarot of the Cat People. So kind of weird how that works. But yeah, anyways, this is a fun one. Again, I apologize for the lighting at the time of me filming this. And I'm filming a few videos on the same day. It is very, very dark and gloomy and rainy, even though you keep hearing planes flying over. I'm in range of a flight path, so if you occasionally hear plane sounds in the background, I am so sorry. It's just where I live. I could close the window, but every time I close the window, my cat gets mad, and then she'll start crying at me. That's really hard to film. But anyways, Tarot of the Cat People. this is a fun one. This is a new one. And I'm excited to use it soon. Okay. Next up in this bag is a deck. I will apologize in advance. This deck is now out of print, but this is the Sinee Tarot. This is by Rose Bay Tarot, one of our own from our community. This deck at one point was on a very limited run in the summer of last year, I believe, through NPC. But it's part of my collection, so I'm going to show it to you guys. Sorry, though, it is out of print. These are the backs, which are very beautiful. I don't even think this lighting fully will do them justice, but beautiful backs. The cardstock is NPC linen, very good, flexible. This is very easy to riffle shuffle, by the way, if you are a riffle shuffler. But let's get into this deck. It is collage, as you can see, but it pulls from a lot of religious iconography, specifically reclaiming, images and stuff that would be traditionally seen with the Catholic Church. I love this deck. I didn't expect to love this deck because I grew up Catholic and have very weird feelings still surrounding that. But the way it does it is really, really good. It's a reclamation. It is a fun one. It has a lot of Lana and Lana Del Rey and other figures like Madonna. It pulls from a lot of pop culture. It is such a good one. Like, look at this 5 of coins. Like, you see the little cross and then like the heartbreak, and it is so good. Like, especially if you do know anything about like religious stuff, this makes a lot of sense. But it also is cool because it includes, it's basically like a Manchiotti deck because it has like what's it called, the astrology, like there's astrological cards, and then there's some extra cards that I think, what are they technically called, the graces or whatever, I don't remember, but it has some extra cards basically. Oh, this is the Aries card, as you can see. So really fun one. If you got this deck, if you managed to get this deck before it was out of print, you know what I mean. And I'm sorry if you can't now, but, you can't get it now. But again, I feel like this would be a deck that wouldn't be for everybody anyways. You know what I mean? You really have to kind of get the vibes of this one to keep it fully in your collection. But I don't know. I just really like this one personally. So this is the Sinee Tarot. Okay, next up, I have a mass market deck again, another mass market. This is the Paulina Tarot. This is by Paulina Faye, but she's also known as Paulina Cassidy now. She has quite a few decks. Most of them, I think, are US Games decks, but this one for sure is. And this is a deck I've had a couple years now, a few years. I haven't used it extremely a lot, but every time I use it, I find it really fascinating and want to dive into it deeper. These are the backs. These are the fronts. Now, this is, okay, I'm going to actually push this one a little bit. I've been putting a lot of them like this, but I'm going to push this one a little closer so you can see. This deck has a lot going on in it, okay? This is the first tarot deck or any of that Paulina did. And it's a shame that her art style has changed a lot kind of from this. Well, not a lot. It's still kind of the same. But this deck, in my opinion, from what I've seen of the other ones, this is the most colorful. But this one also has the most dark of imagery. But I really dig it. There's something about this deck that really is like calling out to me to dive deeper into. I don't know if I'll get a chance this year, but I do intend to use this deck in April. For some reason, I always do want to use this deck in springtime. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe because it does have a lot of like florals and stuff. But this is so good. I don't know. Again, she has a lot of other decks, but some of those seem almost, I don't want to say childish, but there's something about them that don't seem as, fascinating to me as this one. So far, this is the only Paulina Faye or Cassidy deck that I have. Although I saw that she's coming out with a new one, I think, this year. Don't remember from who. Don't remember where. But I saw it somewhere that she's going to have a new deck. And that's pretty cool. But again, I just loved how she played with color in the older, in her first deck here. Because I think after this deck, people complained that her art style was too, what was it? They said it was too busy. Right? It does have a lot of detail. They complained it was too busy, and I think since then she's just kind of lightened up her decks a lot, but I don't think they have the same depth now. Just my opinion. Sorry. I don't mean to offend anybody, especially I know a lot of people really like the Joie de Vivre tarot that she has, and that one's more whimsical, more animal-like, but this one is mostly people. Oh, and this High Priestess is so good. Look at how good it is. I'm sorry. This deck is, I feel like this deck is very underrated, but I really like this one. And yeah, I always tend to gravitate towards it in springtime, but this is the Paulina Tarot, and I think it needs just a little bit more love, in my opinion. Okay, next up, I have another mass market deck. This is the Shadowscapes Tarot by Stephanie Pumin Law. This edition, as you can see, of the deck, I don't think it says on this outside here. This edition of this deck, as you can see, is in a smaller box. There is another style of this deck. Sorry, I can't even talk today. There's another style of this deck that comes in a bigger box, but I got this version. Specifically, I got this in Canada. And it came with this little white book. So again, it's a smaller version. And interestingly enough, the cardstock on this one, see, sometimes I wonder, was it because I got it in Canada, or is it because this is a different print run of this deck? I am not sure. But because I got this in Canada, it came with this cardstock, which I believe is the older Llewellyn cardstock, which was actually good. I don't know why the hell they switched it to like the nasty cardstock they use now. But this is on the old cardstock, which I was like, yes, score, you know? But anyways, these are the backs. And these are the fronts. They have this I don't know if the light's going to pick it up. It has kind of like a metallic-y silver edging that I absolutely love for some reason. I know not everybody likes this. And by the way, a lot of people are obsessed for some reason with the, what's it called? I think it's the check version of this deck because they want the artwork to be bigger. Now, okay, I understand if you might have eyesight that's really failing you, why you might want this deck in a bigger size. But personally, as someone with small hands, this size is perfect for me. I would not want any bigger, okay? And I think the artwork is big enough. But let me show this deck. This deck is very fantastical. This deck is well beloved. This deck is on the older side, and it is fantastic. This deck is very fantastical, and there's something about this deck, too, that vaguely reminds me of my own, like, fantasy world that I've been writing for a while. I don't know why. It just gives me those vibes. Every time I see this deck now, I feel very connected to this. I think I'm very tempted to start using this deck to do more readings based on like my writing, but I don't know yet. I don't even remember if I scheduled it to use this deck this year. I don't know why, because I love this deck, and every time I do readings with this one, I'm just like, I don't know. I just love this deck so much. It's so good. The colors and everything. Her artwork is fantastic. Again, I don't know if I plan to use this deck this year. Oh, and I love these lovers for some reason. I don't know why. I'm like low-key obsessed with them. It's just a weird vibe again. But it is so good. It is so good. If you know, you know. If you know you've had this deck, you know it's good. And I love it. I don't know. Why am I gushing so much on this one? I don't know. Just because it's good. It's a fun one. Yeah, it's a very fantasy deck. So if you like fantasy decks, you will like this one. But this is Shadowscapes Tarot, mass market. You can find a couple different versions of this, but I have this version of it. And yeah, gonna move on now. Okay, next up. Ooh, hoo, hoo. You guys know this one already. Especially if you've been on my channel a while. Holy shit. Okay, this is the Guided Hand Tarot. This is an indie deck by Irene Mudd. This deck is old school for the Tarotverse now. It's been out a very long time. And this is one of my favorite collage decks, okay? I know in the video before this, I showed a few, but this is by far the favorite. Like, the most favorite, this one. These are the backs. This cardstock is so, I don't know, there's something about this cardstock I really like. It's like smooth and just shuffles really nicely. But anyways, love this deck. It's funny with this one too. It took me a very, very long time to get this one. I don't know why. I had it in my Etsy for so long, like as a favorite deck. Like, oh yeah, I'll get that soon. I'll get that soon. And for some reason, for a while there, I held off for a very long time. Okay, this deck has been around a while. But then finally one day, some years back now, like a few years, like definitely early days in my channel, I said, fuck it, I'm going to buy it. And I did. And I have not looked back since because this one is so good. This deck is pretty much like what I try to put as the standard for what I'm going to get when it comes to collage deck. I like this deck is very intentional with its collage usage, right? Like you do see some images that are collage, but some of these are just hand drawn or cut out from drawings and collage together, which is very artsy. I don't know. It has a very artsy fartsy feel, but I am obsessed. It has so much depth to it. It's one of my most accurate readers, up there, of course, with The Raven's Prophecy, which I showed it last time, Spark and Pen, and a few others. It's just so good. I do highly recommend this one. You will see, I do have another now. I have another tarot deck now that's very similar in style to this one. Not 100%, but it's very similar in style. But you'll probably be seeing that. I think it's in it'll be part 5 of this. So you got to wait for that one. Very similar, but this is still the favorite because I haven't really worked with that other one yet. It's just very much could be like the sister to this deck. But yeah, this one is super, super well known, super good. Always recommend it. Again, very easy overhand shuffle. So good. So good. But yeah, that is the Guided Hand Tarot. And I cannot recommend this deck enough. Okay, next up here, we have the Slow Tarot. This is by Lacey Bryant. This is indie also. This is a deck that, I'm not going to lie, this was one of my unicorns for a while. And then it recently came back into print. I don't know if it's still in print at the time of this video, but it recently came back into print, and I think it still is. But as you can see, this deck originally came out in 2019. This had a story of being like very, like I said, very, it would like go in print, out of print, in print, out of print. I don't technically know what printing or edition this is at now. Oh, it says in here, never mind. Fourth edition, December 2023? I didn't get this in 2023. I got it in 2024. Maybe I pre-ordered. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I got it in 2024, but I was not aware it went back into print is the takeaway here. These are the amazing backs. Amazing. This deck is also on linen cardstock, very smooth. This is more slippery linen. I think some people don't like this kind of slippery linen, but I love it. Very flexible, as you can see. Bends very easily. So if you are a riffle shuffler, this is very easy for you to work with in that way. And I am obsessed with this deck. Its artwork is stunning. It does have different colored borders, as you can see, but they're all on the darker shade side. She painted all these paintings. Can you believe? Like, she actually did 78 paintings, big size, to make this deck. She's also a Bay Area creator, in the area-ish that I'm from. So I love being able to support local creators. And I am obsessed with this. I've also talked about this one. This one and the Cosmic Wisdom Tarot are basically my two modern fantasy decks. There's a lot of things inside of them that kind of take place in our world, but some of them seem like this fantasy realm outside of our world. This freaking Five of Swords is the most fantastic Five of Swords ever, too. I am obsessed. I will forever be obsessed. The artwork is just stunning. So good. Do highly recommend. I am usually, since getting this, I've been more gravitated to I've been wanting to use this deck more in like the fall kind of season. But I don't know. I just love it so much. And yes, it is now back in print, so definitely grab it for now while it is. I think some people did after I mentioned that this went back in print and I was able to get it, which is good. So now other people can have it and enjoy it. And yeah, I'm just obsessed. This one's good. I always want to use this deck more, but again, I try to like hold off just because I have so many other ones, but I love the slow tarot, so yeah, we're going to move on because I have more decks to show. Okay, next up is the deck that no one else is going to be surprised about. This is the Liler Tarot. This is specifically the, what was this called? The Gold Edition? I think it's the Gold Edition, but it's like technically a second, I don't know. It's almost like a second printing or second edition, but it's just called, I think, the Gold Edition is because it got this gold foiling. The light can, yeah, you can pick it up a little bit. I love the size of this deck. I have smaller hands. It is slightly smaller than standard tarot, so I can hold it very comfortably like this. And that's amazing. Holy. It's always good when creators think about smaller hands. I also like the cardstock. It's matte. It doesn't have the best bend, so maybe if you're a real shuffler, it might be a little harder. But I like this. This is very easy to overhand. But the backs are very colorful. This is also an indie deck by Marion Costentin, who I think might have changed her name recently, but I don't remember what her last name is now. I love this deck. This is also a very accurate reader for me. This deck is very quirky out there, very rainbow watercolory. All the figures look like kind of demonic or like demon looking figures, but they're not like harsh at the same time. I don't know how to explain this deck. It's just so it's just so quirky and out there. But I am obsessed. I love this deck. It reads really well for me. It's a very moody deck. It kind of just lets me feel what I want to feel. And so that's why I enjoy it so much. Now, I've always liked the idea of getting this Creator's Reclaim Oracle, but I do not have that one because I'm going to be honest, I am a black and white hater. I don't think the deck is fully black and white, but I think it's just black and pink, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. I just need colors in my deck. I can't have black and white fully. It doesn't work for me. So that monochromatic style is not mine. But I really like this one. I highly recommend this one if this is a style that you're okay with. It's just so fun and good. It is a little pippy in some ways, but I don't know. I get the vibes of this one for some reason. It works for me. And the color scheme, I don't even think the lighting in this room is doing this justice right now, but the color scheme on this is just fantastic. So that is a Liler Tarot. Always a fan favorite for me. I usually tend to gravitate towards this one more in the spring, summertime. I definitely don't reach for it right now time of year or the fall. So yeah, this is the Liler Tarot, and we're gonna move on to the next one. Okay, in this fun bag, we have the Dreaming Way Tarot. This is a mass market deck. This deck has also been around a while. This is a US Games deck. Cardstock's a little bit on the thicker US Games style though, just so you know. It might be a little harder to riffle. You probably still can, but I'd be careful. Overhand though, of course, is 100% fine. These are the backs. Not 100% a fan of the backs. They're very 90s, but a lot of people like them. I don't. That's the only thing about the deck I'm kind of like, I'm on the fence about. But this deck is a classic. It is more RWS clone kind of leaning, but it does its own thing. It's very fantastical, in my opinion, too. But it also really likes fashion and tries to do these cool, like, fashion forward stuff with it. It's a really fun one. I know a lot of people like this deck. I'll be honest, I haven't used this one a whole ton since I've gotten it, but I do intend to use this, I think in April is what I put. I don't know why it gives me April vibes. Don't know, but it does. And yeah, I just, this one's fun. It is fun. That's why I was like gravitated to use it or like to get it, even though I haven't used it a whole lot, but a lot of people really like this one. So again, it's kind of been around for a while in the tarot space, but I do recommend for a lot of people to get a hold of it if this is your style, you know. This deck also likes a lot of greens, so if you like a lot of greens, blues, whites, golds, it mostly operates in that color scheme. I don't really... Okay, this one has some red, but most of it is kind of like that cooler toned color scheme. So yeah, this is the Dreaming Way Tarot. Good one. I have it in this bag because that's the other thing. The tuck box for this deck was a fucking nightmare when I got it. I don't know what it was about it. It was jam-packed in there and I could never get my cards out, so I just got this bag for it and now it's done me wonders. So yeah, that's the Dreaming Way Tarot. Okay, next up, this deck will not, well, some of you will know what this is, some of you will be like, huh, and it is what it is. Anyways, this is an indie deck. This is the Yonas Tarot. Specifically, this is the 7th edition, but this was like the first printing, I guess, of the 2nd edition. So it looked like this, long and skinny. Now you could say this should have been in my odd shaped decks video, but I argue because it is long and skinny and definitely not small, as you can see, it's like longer than my goddamn hands. I decided not to put it in the odd shape video. You're going to see maybe one other deck that's also kind of like this, and that's why I didn't include it, is because it's like bigger than, it's longer than tarot size. But anyways, these were the backs of this edition and this printing. It also had this cool swampy green like edging. I don't know why, I really dig it. And this deck is very pippy. As you can also see, the language of this deck is in Galician. So it's very similar in pronunciation to Portuguese. So every time I look at this, I basically just pronounce it how I would in Portuguese, because the languages are very similar. I like the color scheme of this one, but I notice I don't use it often. And it's probably because this is a Marseille inspired deck and I haven't fully dived in to the Marseille. Okay. I've been learning it slowly for a couple years now, but not enough where I feel comfortable reading in a Marseille style. So for that reason, I haven't fully read with this one, but it is so beautiful. The thing with this creator, though, is that she creates a lot of different editions of the decks. Mainly, it's more color scheme things. Like she'll change the color scheme around on the decks, which for better or worse has made it that a lot of people want different versions of this deck. Honestly, I only need this version. I don't really need another. Yeah. But this is the Yonas Tarot. It follows Marseille tradition, meanings. Specifically, she's also more of a fan of Jodorowsky, which I don't like. I don't like his. So that's maybe also why I haven't fully read with this, and I just need to learn more Marseille on my own so I can determine how I want to read with this deck. But anyways, this is the Yonas Tarot, specifically the first printing of the 7th edition. Okay then. Next up, I have this deck. This is the Stella's Tarot. At one point in time, as you can see by the box and stuff, it was an AGM Molar deck. At one point in time, this deck was mass market, and I don't think it is anymore, except maybe in Japan, question mark. So this version of the deck, I think, is out of print. Now, I did notice, interestingly enough, that Tivada had a version of this deck a while ago, but it was, like, different. So I don't know what's up with that. But this is the edition that I have. I got it used for actually a pretty decent price, despite this one being out of print. These are the cards. They're good size, actually, too. They're smaller for my hand, so I like. The cardstock's decent, too. Slight gloss, but not high gloss, despite the lighting. I'm, like, next to a light, so that's why it looks like that. And this deck is so cool. This is a very surreal deck. I think the reason why I was attracted to the Stella's Tarot, and sorry, by the way, because again, this version of it, I think, is out of print now. I was attracted to this deck because it's very surreal, and the artwork, coloring, and everything vaguely reminded me of Remedios Varo, who is one of my favorite painters ever. So I just love this deck. It kind of combines, I think it's technically, this deck is more Thoth leaning, but I don't read it Thoth personally. I just read it regular RWS kind of thing, because I kind of feel like it does its own thing. I don't think it's fully Thoth either. So it's like kind of loosely Thoth inspired. I don't know. Oh, this card is so cool. The Nine of Swords. So cool. This card especially is what made me think about Remedios Varo, because she has like very similar style. But yeah, I love this deck. It is so quirky and different. The people, as you notice, I don't know if you guys can tell, they have like really small heads and then like really big and broad bodies. It's like so odd, but I just, for some reason, I really like it in this deck. Oh, and I love this devil card. Something about it is so cool. So yeah, this is a fun one. I really like it. But yeah, this version's out of print. You can probably find it still online. Sometimes it pops up. So just keep an eye out if you're in search of this one. But the Stella's Tarot, it's a fun little deck, and I like it a lot. Okay, we only have 2 more decks for this video. This is part 2 again, like I said, of standard size tarot decks in my collection. And you guys might be familiar with this one because if you watched my minis version, like all those mini decks I have the mini of this. This is the Wonderworld Tarot by Push Kitty. Specifically, this is the first edition, okay? First edition, it looked like this. Back. Box that goes fully out like that. Very nice. These were the backs. I say were because I'm pretty sure this deck is almost out of print if it is not completely. This version of the deck, by the way. Just the first edition that looked like this. That was this size, like typical tarot size, and was on rose petal cardstock. So this is rose petal. Not my favorite cardstock. Not going to lie. Not my favorite. It is very sticky. This one, very notoriously sticky. I kind of have to do this weird trick where I know this is so weird. I go like this. And then like, and then it makes it like slightly easier to shuffle. But as you can see, it's still very like sticky. It does not want to move. And even with use, it's always been like that. So rose petal finish is not my favorite. But at the same time, I gravitate towards this rose petal for this deck now because it just feels like this deck. Oh, this is one of my favorite cards of this deck. This is, well, I already talked about it in my mini video, but same shit from that one. You can apply to this. It is Alice in Wonderland inspired. Specifically, if you've ever seen all of the movies, read the book, you know, this is very faithful to that. Even the 1999 version, and it combines elements from both, I would say, Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It's very smart, despite, like, it... Okay, for me personally, I don't need a guidebook. Now, if you're someone who's not familiar with Alice in Wonderland, you probably would want this deck to have come with a guidebook. It does not. But despite all that, I love this. Now, this version, as I've said, is almost out of print. I don't know how many of this deck she has now, but for some crazy reason, she's like priced it at $100 now. I did not pay $100 when I first got this. But because her deck's almost going out of print, I think whatever remaining ones she has left, she has priced at $100. You don't need to do that. If you're interested in this deck, you don't have to buy that one, because the mini that I showed, same color scheme as this one. It's just a smaller size, different cardstock that's actually easier to use, half the price. And also, this deck has a second edition now. The only thing with the second edition that I've seen is that it does have different backs. It does have like sparkly purple edging, but that deck is also more cool color toned. This one is warmer color toned, and I prefer this one personally. But to each their own. Just look at pictures. You can either decide to get the second edition or get that mini, because you don't need to pay crazy prices for this, okay? You don't need to do that. But I do recommend this one. It is a good deck. It is an RWS clone, as you can see, but if you're really familiar with Alice in Wonderland, this is very smart, and I highly recommend this one. So yeah, this is the Wonderworld Tarot. Okay, last deck for this video is the Peculiar Pathways Tarot by the very amazing Lennox Reese. Looks like this. Comes in this magnetic box. Does not open all the way, but that's okay. These are the backs, which are fantastic. This deck also came with a really big, nice guidebook. But anyways, oh, it also has this like sage green or minty green like matte edging, which is really cool. It is also on linen cardstock, more waffly linen, pretty thin, easy to shuffle, all that jazz. But anyways, Peculiar Pathways. This one is a good one. This is also a collage deck, but this, as you can see, is more animal, vintagey looking. It follows the RWS very closely. The guidebook especially talks about that. It shows how Lennox's process when creating this deck, and it is good. I found myself, though, it was interesting. I found myself when using this deck a little bit on the fence with it, only because after reading through the guidebook and trying to read with it, it felt very, even though it doesn't look anything like it, right? It felt almost RWS clone-ish. And I don't know where that vibe came from. It was just weird. I was like, I thought I wanted to use this deck a lot more, but I didn't. But it's still very beautiful. Like, I do want to keep using it. I just found myself, when actually doing readings with it, I'm not going to say I was underwhelmed. I just didn't feel as close to it as I thought I was going to, but that might also be me. I didn't use it too much. But despite that, it is a very good deck. I do like this creator's Oracle deck, which you guys already saw the mini Coastal Curiosity But when I do my Oracle video, you will also see the standard size that I have. But yeah, this is Peculiar Pathways. Love this deck. I can't wait though. For some reason I gravitate more towards Lennox's Oracles, but I do enjoy this one nonetheless. So yeah, this is a Peculiar Pathways Tarot. This is the last video. Not last video. This is the last deck I'm going to show for this video. And yeah, I find this one a fun one. But if you are watching this long, thank you so much for watching. Keep your eyes out for part 3 and when that comes around so that you can see more of the decks that I have. But yeah, for now, I'm going to head out and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.